It's crazy that sometimes what we look for in love is what we didn't get early on. Because to be very honest, I did not feel seen when I was younger, but I knew I was loved because of the sacrifices that they were making, but I did not feel seen, right? So that makes sense. I've never thought about it till now, but yeah. So when I hear love, the first thing that comes to my mind is sacrifice. And I mean, this is because of the type of family I actually grew up in. My dad was very sacrificial. I mean, there were some things that he deprived himself of that I don't know if as a man myself today, I can do the same. So for me, I'll just say sacrifice is the first thing that I think of when I think of love. The feeling I have when I think love is being seen. Because as a guy, I mean, it's just everyday hustle and you're just trying to make ends meet, trying to provide. So love for me just makes me feel seen. That's been seen as a human being, not just, yeah. So I'll just say being seen, yeah. In terms of family, right? In terms of my family, I would say it's almost hard to remember a particular memory, but I know there were just times where I just felt like really loved by my parents, right? Truth is, now that I think about it, there were times where I didn't feel loved because I felt like they weren't giving me things that I wanted. But as I think back, I can say there were so many times where I saw the sacrifice being made for me, and that just made me feel like really loved. It's hard to pinpoint one right now, but there's just a couple of memories that I have in my head that just make me remember the kind of love that my parents, that my dad especially had for me. Sometimes I think I struggle because love these days almost means something different. Like, I am used to showing love in terms of responsibility, in terms of getting things done, right? Being a responsible provider for the necessary stuff, because this is how I also grew up, right? There were times where, I mean, I would never forget this particular one because I was talking to my mom the other time and I told her about this and she said, you know what? That day was the most honest conversation I'd ever had with my mom because I just saw her as a human being, as a woman, as a person that was learning also. And that story was, I was the best in social science in my high school. And I went home, right? Expecting to be welcomed like a king. And there was nothing at home waiting for me. I was just like, after all the pressure, after all the effort I put in to do this, and it made me feel really bad, right? But when I think about it, I just realized how much sacrifice that they made. And sometimes it did not show through the tangible stuff, but sacrifices were definitely made. I'm a very pragmatic person, very practical person, very logical person. I'm trying to change that. I have definitely felt love in my relationship. In fact, in my very recent relationship, I how they say you don't know what you have till you lose it. I understand what they mean now, right? I felt a lot of love. So yeah, that romantic love is also something that I have felt, I would say twice in my life. And once when I was still a child, because I was like maybe in my early 20s, very, very early 20s. And quite recently, once that's still going on. Yeah. With my romantic partner, love for me is support. Full stop. When I see how much she supports me, how much she supports me in every way, mentally, physically, just every way, I feel maybe somewhere it makes me feel seen too. I do not understand how that plays in my head, but for me, support is what love means when it comes to romantic relationships. So the biggest misconception about love, in my opinion, is that it is a feeling. When we're kids, when we're young, when we're all of those things. I mean, it's not like I'm like old right now, but when we are younger, love for us is a feeling, right? And I think this is very dangerous because that feeling is fleeting, right? It can be like this today, tomorrow is like this. So for me, love is a commitment. It is a choice that you make every day, that you make every hour, that you make every second. You choose to love this person, because if you just say, you know what, I want to feel love, you would be distracted a whole lot, because that feeling would change. And with that change in the feeling, your reaction, your attitude, your behavior would change. So it has to be a commitment. And it has to be a commitment to something, right? So I focused on the fact that love was given to me. And I would say I did not really focus on loving the person the way they wanted to be loved. I focused a lot more on loving the way I knew to love. And I would say that was lazy. That was a lazy approach. And I feel like I had to learn the hard way. But that was a lazy approach, because we cannot love people the way we're used to loving. We have to love them the way they want to be loved, because it is mutual, right? You're not loving just yourself, you're actually loving this person. So you need to ensure that you love the person the way they want to be loved. And this is something that I am still working on myself. It is not easy, because I mean, imagine living 30 years of life and more, for example, and knowing how to love in this way. And then you meet someone and it's just really hard to change. But I mean, when you meet the right person and you are incentivized correctly, it's something that is definitely worth it. So yeah, that's something I'm myself still trying to change and still working on myself about. Yeah. Personally, when it comes to how I would love my future family, I would say it would just be the best of both worlds, which is taking from what I had learned, the good parts, and then taking from what I now know, right? Because like, you know how they would say, with new knowledge comes new reactions and new actions. So for me, I'd say that sacrificial bit is something that I would want to continue to do, to always ensure that I put my family first as much as possible. I mean, it is easier said than done, but that's something that I would try my best to do. I would base my love not on people, but on the way God loves us. And this is very important to me now, because if we can really learn from how God loves us, right, from what 1 Corinthians 30 talks about in terms of love, there's a lot we can really learn from here when we choose how to love people, be it family, be it our partners, and all of that. So I'll take that bit of being quite sacrificial. I would base my love on God's love to us. And I would really just take my time to understand how that person wants to be loved, because love is really not just about you, it's about the person, because you love the person, right? So it means that for that person to feel loved, they typically would want to be loved in the way they know love how to be. So I'll take my time to understand that person's mindset, that person's wants. How does that person want to be loved? And that's what I'll do. First of all, we have to drop stereotypes, right? for you to know how your kids would want to be loved, you have to know them, right? You have to see yourself not just as a provider and a protector, but also as a friend to an extent. And this means talking to them, making them feel safe to actually tell you things, and really being present, not just present physically, but present with your mind, such that when they say things, you're able to pick up on some cues, because sometimes they might not want to tell you exactly how they feel about this and all of that. But if you're really, truly present mentally, you'll be able to pick up on a couple of things. So these are things that I would want to do, God willing, because I know it is not very easy, but yeah. So my dad used to travel a lot. My mom was the one that was actually mostly around, and then it was like whenever you do anything wrong, you just like wait for your dad to come. So it was almost like when he comes, all the beating that you have not gotten is when he comes, you will not actually do it. So in those times, I used to feel very unloved. It was so crazy because I can remember back then, there's this particular one I would actually never forget when if you get ill, and my dad was quite strict too, even if he was very kind. And if you try to take the drug, for example, and you don't, let's say, quickly swallow it, he will now knock you. I'm just like, why are you knocking me for not swallowing the drug? Like, isn't that counterproductive? But those times are like a couple of other times I used to definitely feel not loved. And also when I used to, so my family was very, what's the word? We're a very driven family, right? Very driven family. Like my sister took first position, I think, throughout primary school and secondary school or something like that. So we're just very, very driven. So I used to not feel loved too when I would do quite well in school and come back home and there's nothing for me, right? Also, when I was younger, it was very rare to have birthdays where I felt like the birthday was planned. It almost felt like an afterthought. Like my mom used to have a shop then, and this was a young child, right? Happy that it is his birthday, and my gift could be, oh, okay, go to the shop and go and get something. And it's crazy because this used to happen a lot, right? And nothing just felt planned for me. I think it was only one birthday that I can remember vividly that felt planned for me. The others just felt like, okay, yeah, done, move on. Like, so yeah, those were times that I really did not feel loved. And I grew up that way, not planning my show of love to people and just feeling, and just feeling like they should understand that I love them because I'm sacrificing, I'm being responsible, right? And that's not how it works. It goes beyond that. My parents were much in love and they were friends. Like I cannot, like countless times I would just actually hear them talking, gossiping, gisting. And for me, I would say that's something that I know my mom misses a lot now that my dad has passed. So they were very much in love with each other, and I would say this also showed a lot in the respect that they had for each other. Throughout my whole childhood, I'd say I probably saw them argue maybe just once, which is quite ridiculous because I'm sure they were arguing, but in fact, I don't know if they were arguing, but it was just that there was just so much respect going on between themselves. So I think women before used to be more understanding. I know that's not a word that people like these days, but women used to be more understanding. I feel like, yes, what I'll take from them is the respect that they had for each other. But something that I know I would do better in my own time is being more intentional about my wife, my future wife. Being more intentional, not just being responsible and just leaving it at that, but showing her that she's a baby girl too, right? So I think that's something that I learned from. I didn't see my mom complain, but times that quite different now, right? So that's something that I would do differently, which is being more intentional about the woman I am with and just really showing her that I love her, not just from a responsible point of view from, oh, I am protecting, I am providing, but just making her feel good, just, yeah, petting her and all of that. So when I was in primary school, there was a particular girl that till almost today, my family still actually teases me with, because I used to really like her, but I mean, let's not use that because that was actually primary school. I'd say my first experience with love was in 2016. I was like maybe 20 or so. And that was my ex then. I'll say I was a proper lover boy then. And I knew I was in love because I used to once again sacrifice. Like, I'll never forget back then, my salary was 120K or something like that. And because of the kind of person I am, I had saved up like maybe 60,000. I think I actually bought a land that time. So about 60K from that 120K has gone, right? So I was barely surviving with about 60K, or maybe even like 50K, because it was like 118K, yeah, about maybe 50 something thousand naira. And from that 50 something K, I would give her like 15K, right? And this is for the whole month, bro. And she would use the money she would basically spend the money in like maybe 5 days, right? And I still found myself sacrificing even more. I would never forget, on her birthday, I borrowed money to buy her gifts, and we still fought that day. But I'll say, yeah, that's my first romantic love feeling. I still feel the same way when I love someone now. I'll say sacrifice has just always been a very big deal for me. When I love someone, I am very self-aware. I know when I'm doing something wrong, and I like to believe that I'm someone that takes feedback. So as much as possible, I try my best to learn from what the person says. But so far, I'd say I actually still love that way. I'm still very sacrificial in the way I love. But the question is, does the person know I am sacrificing? That's a different conversation, because sometimes we actually sacrifice for this person, but they don't even know that this is what you're doing. So, I mean, that just goes by. The first time I felt love romantically it's crazy because I can remember it like it was yesterday. And it's weird. It's all adding up in my head because, so we were still talking then and all of that, and I told her I like apples, right? And I told her I like a particular type of wine or so, I can't remember, and some other things. And she came to my house one day and she brought exactly all of those things. And I think I probably asked her like that day or the next day or something, because I felt seen. Like, it just felt like she listened to me. She actually listened to what I was saying, and she took the time to bring this for me because she wants me to know that she's listening to me. And it was as little as that, as apples and some other things. And I would say that's the first time I knew that I loved somebody, because I just felt like I was seen. I was listened to. I think communication is very important in love, because you really never know how the person feels till you talk about it. Personally, this is something that I would say I really, really value. However, I think there's been times in the past where I have been, if I'm to be honest with myself, I've been a bit hypocritical, where I said I like to communicate, however, I did not communicate. And to be very honest, there were consequences a couple of times. The way I communicate is, I like to very much. So I'm a very, like I had actually said before, I'm a very pragmatic person. So when I communicate with my partner, I like to, as much as possible, be logical about it. And what I have seen in the past is women tend to not like logic, especially when love is in the picture. So it's a bit hard to really balance it. So it's like, at what point do I be logical? At what point do I be emotional? Like, what happens? So this has really not worked for me a lot in the past, which is being too logical about some types of communication. I like to talk about things, as they would say, as they hot. I like to hash things out. I mean, quickly, because the way I am is I don't know how to keep things in mind. I need to have a clear mind to be able to function properly. So whenever disputes arise, arguments, I like to hash it out when it happens. However, this is something that I have still been learning how to change or how to maybe manage, because my partner at the time was not that type of person. And it's crazy how relationships are, because you are one type of person and the person that you're with is not that type of person, and two of you have to just find ways to kind of like adjust each other just to meet somewhere in the middle. So this is something that I would say I'm still working on, which is being able to be patient whenever things arise and not have to hash it out at that point in time. It is not easy because I'm still the way I am, but it's something I am still currently working on and hopefully get better at. So recently I somewhat let go of someone that I love, and it's been hard. It's been very hard. I was at fault, but that doesn't make it easier. It's been very hard, and is especially hard because you've painted a picture of your future with this person, and you're raising pictures with the person are the easy part. You're raising memories and mental pictures are the hard part. So the pictures, the normal cute pictures, I mean, that part is not so easy, but I mean, you can still do that. But when it comes to trying to erase the mental pictures and the memories, that's really the hard part, because you think to yourself, it's a crazy place to be in because you're in the middle. You think to yourself, should I move on? Should I let this person go? Or should I fight for it? And it's especially hard because the more you fight, the more you get hurt, because it makes the heartbreak fresh every day. And it's just crazy hard, but I mean, love is hard, right? So, yeah, I would say I would continue trying to be a better person first, both for myself and for this person, if that continues to happen. But all in all, I would say is it is a really, really hard thing to do, to let someone that you love go. It's really difficult. My advice to someone searching for love is, first of all, do not search. That's my first advice, because when you search for love, you are going about it the wrong way already, because you search for it as if it's something that you can find. But it isn't something you can find, it's something you can be. Love starts from who you are and what you attract. That's where love starts. So my advice for anybody searching for love is, do not search. Focus on being a person that can be loved, and you would attract love. An advice I would give to my younger self about love would be, it's not the end. Because you love one person and you feel like, this is it, I can never ever move on from this, but it's not the end. I would have to give myself a second advice, which would be just really work on yourself, right? Work on yourself such that when love comes again, when you attract it again, you are the right person. You are a lovable person, because there's been many times where people have met each other at the wrong time, and they could have been great lovers, but the timing wasn't just right, because maybe one person was still healing, one of the parties had not really worked on themselves. So two things I would say to my younger self is, it's not the end, and don't stop working on yourself.